Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert
and Ryan.
And today we will be discussing the long-awaited Marvel film Black Widow. Literally been coming out for the last 2 years.
It's been anticipated longer than that. I mean,
yeah,
I still remember the SNL skit of the Black Widow movie where it was just a romantic comedy.
Oh, was that supposed to be? That wasn't supposed to be the Black Widow movie.
It was supposed to be the Black Widow movie.
Wow, yeah, I do remember that SNL skit too, which is kind of funny. Yeah, but it's finally out, and we watched it opening day, literally like the very first showing we could possibly see.
NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I will say, it's not because Black Widow is my favorite character, but because I was waiting so long for any Marvel movie to come out. Like it could have been any movie. It could have been Howard the Duck, honestly, and I probably would have been seen it the first day. So
yeah, honestly. And I'll probably see Shang-Chi opening day too.
Yep, definitely. I'm actually more excited for Shang-Chi than I would like it if there was no wait. If it wasn't, a long awaited, literally like waiting for Black Widow to come out for this long, I would be equally or more excited to see Shang-Chi.
I get that.
Really just because I think it's cool. I want to, I like the idea of like a kung fu Marvel character. And yeah. Iron Fist was such a major super letdown that like, please come on, redeem us.
Yeah. I feel like Disney has two things to redeem themselves for. One, Iron Fist within the MCU, but also like I feel like Shang-Chi gives me the hopeful vibes I had when I saw the first Mulan trailer of, oh, this looks like it could be really good. And then it just wasn't at all.
I never watched that new Mulan.
You made a good choice in not watching it. It's just unremarkable. There's just like anything unique about the first one has been stripped out. And then it's not good enough as a like dramatic war film because it's not like adult enough. And then they take out the talking dragon so that they can put magic in it anyways.
Oh, yeah. I did see I remember seeing that in the commercials where it was like they had this witch that was like able to transform and stuff. And it's like, okay, so we couldn't get Mushu. You couldn't get Eddie Murphy back to do Mushu.
It didn't even need to be Eddie Murphy. Like they could have gotten like a comedic like anybody to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, glad I didn't watch it. Glad we're not doing a podcast about Mulan today.
April Fool's Mulan recap right now. All right, but Black Widow.
Yeah. So we're just gonna do a quick recap and then just
Well, before the recap.
Oh, before the recap. Here's a word from our sponsor.
No. We don't have that yet.
Oh yeah.
We're not important enough.
Let us know if you want to sponsor us.
But before that, let's get some first impressions. So I think we were both excited going into the movie. Did this movie meet your expectations, beat your expectations, or did it not quite live up to what you hoped it could be?
Here's the honest truth is that it did not meet my expectations. However, I really think it's because my expectations were very high. Like as reference, everybody's been basically waiting for this movie for, over a year since literally before, COVID and all that. So but it was a very good movie still. So I just, it truly is just a matter of expectations because I really just come out of it and be like, that was a really good movie, but it just didn't, I felt like I needed more,
I get that.
And here's the thing, like we're coming off of the movie before this was like a third installment of Spider-Man. Was it third? Second. Well, yeah. Second installment of Spider-Man. And before that it was Endgame. So, you had some like big kind of like
shoes to fill.
Yeah, exactly. Like coming up after those. But this is still pretty great and spectacular. There was also, I should have measured my expectations more because no offense, but it's a movie about Black Widow, who is not like a major super key character. Like great, awesome.
It's a film about a character we already know is dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's, so we already know this is like not a, this is something that already happened some time ago. But again, overall, I liked it. It gave us, I'm glad we got a Black Widow movie eventually. This movie could have like clearly sits in a certain place in the timeline and would have been better if it came out like near then. But
Yeah, so that's one thing I could say that what's interesting about the movie is that because it didn't come out when it occurred within the timeline, they could have essentially released it any time. And in a way, I've heard some people say that they like this movie where it was put because it feels like a better send off to Black Widow than Endgame was.
yes, I will agree with that.
But yeah, like it, you do kind of get robbed of some of the suspense of the movie in that you know that like Natasha's making it out. Here's the thing though, I felt some sense of some suspense of I don't know if they are going to keep all of the supporting cast in the movie. Like I had the strong hope that a lot of these people would come through because like particularly Florence Pugh and David Harbour, I really hope would make it out of the movie. But part of me was like, but they could die because they can't kill Black Widow, but they could kill off one of these people and just have like wasted this really good casting for future uses.
Yeah, but Disney's not going to just throw away easily merchandisable characters that they might be able to bring back again.
They do it all the time with their villains, except for Loki.
Yeah, but the villains are expected to die.
I didn't expect Killmonger to die at the end. I didn't expect Hela to die at the end because I thought they were so cool and unique that they could have kept them for future uses.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know why to say being the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, here's the thing, because I don't know if it actually makes in comics it makes sense to your villains to keep existing and continue on with their little plans and stuff. But like, how does it make sense to keep having villains around and keep making like how many times can you make a movie with where it's a hero versus that villain again? I guess you could say like, oh, well, it doesn't have to be this hero versus that villain. It could be Iron Man could fight Killmonger next time or something like that.
The villains could have redemption arcs.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know
That's what happened with Loki.
Yeah, I don't know how Hela gets a redemption arc, but but or even frankly Killmonger, who's like clearly so.
I mean, like
the thing is, I think that they do a thing which they do with most villains, which is where they sate them in such like a they've gone polar evil, right?
You do. Here's what you do. You do the thing, the Zemo thing, where you put them in jail and then use them at a later time.
Yeah, I guess so. To say that like Zemo's the person that you saved and used again later is kind of like, I mean, not to say like he's a lesser villain, but like
it's fair because he didn't really mean much to Civil War other than being the catalyst for stuff to happen.
Yeah,
like he wasn't really a presence there. But like they've also misused a lot of villains, including in this movie. I've heard some reactions of people who are fans of the comics being quite upset at the portrayal of Taskmaster.
Why? Like, because they weren't powerful enough, or because their origin, or
just like it's not true to the character what they did with it, and it's kind of lackluster, I guess, because Taskmaster is supposed to be able to mimic any Avengers like fighting style, and you kind of get like a sense of that in like the using the shield and stuff, and like if you're like familiar with the fighting styles you can kind of see it, but like it could have been a much cooler enemy that's just kind of like made I don't know. I didn't have that sense. I thought Taskmaster was kind of cool, but like just like kind of cool. It's like wasn't really a big villain. And honestly, yeah, that's kind of the biggest flaw with this movie are the villains.
Yeah. I will say that, like Taskmaster is kind of cool in this movie, but I don't really think we get like enough of a real like we encounter Taskmaster and see Taskmaster do a bunch of things in the movie. Like we get and I clearly like get a bunch of like them being like, look, Taskmaster copying these different Avenger things. Like we get the shield, which is obvious. We get him using bow and arrow. We get him like pulling out claws. We get a few different things, but I don't think we get like a really just like good solid like. There's a lot of action in this movie, but we don't get like a solid battle between like a really climactic like them just going at it. pretty much whole movie. I mean, we get Red Guardian fighting Taskmaster for a little bit, and we get Black Widow getting beat up by Taskmaster for a little bit, but we don't get like just like a solid like duking it out until it's over kind of thing. We get, I mean, the resolution of Taskmaster is that they are released from their mind control, and that's how Taskmaster's all not really defeated, just like the driving force of their aggression is subverted.
Yeah. So,
but yeah,
we've kind of gone off topic.
Whatever. This is a podcast. We can talk about what we want.
Well, let me say what my impression was. So, interestingly enough, as hyped up as this movie was, as long awaited as this movie was, I kind of went into it with, I think, fairly measured expectations, because I was like, you know what? I like this movie can't like be that great. Like it can't, it's not going to have like universe shattering stuff occurring in it. If anything happens in this movie that changes the MCU going forward, it's going to be a post-credit scene, most likely. Mm-hmm. Nothing in the plot of this movie is going to really touch the MCU. Mm-hmm. And it's also probably not going to be that high scale of a thing, because just by the nature of it needing to be accomplished entirely by non-Avengers. And I expected no Avengers to show up other than Black Widow, and no Avengers showed up except as a picture in a post-credit scene.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I went into this just like hoping for a good time. And you know what? I thought it was so great. I just really loved it. Like, I give it like an A, like almost an A plus. Like, I just thought it was freaking great.
I would say that this movie gets like a A minus, and I think like it lost like 2 points from one just straight up my expectations, which I understand. Like, I went in there expecting a lot, but it's a simple thing that it suffers from because we had to wait so long for it to come out, and that's not anybody's fault. And then there were just a couple little things in it that I potentially could have, like I could criticize a little bit, like the Taskmaster point. That's a little bit of criticism we can give there, but it's not so huge. It's like, oh my God, this character's like destroyed by it. And here's the thing. Is in some sense, I'm not like a huge Marvel Comics reader. I didn't like grow up reading them. I just, but I always like the characters. And so I'm not like, I see Taskmaster in this, and I understood what his powers were and who he was supposed to be. They were supposed to be beforehand. But I didn't have an expectation of exactly how they would act. And so this is just this is who Taskmaster is in the MCU, and I was fine with it.
Yeah. I agree with that. So I don't know if you get this sense, but this movie gives me a lot of the vibes that Winter Soldier as a movie gave, except I feel like this movie, like for me, this movie does what I think Winter Soldier did for a lot of people, because I've heard a lot of people say that Winter Soldier is like one of their favorite Marvel movies, and I thought it was good, but I feel like this movie does for me that kind of like spy thriller type Marvel movie better for me personally, though.
I would entirely agree. So I think there's a feeling in Winter Soldier of like I don't know, like danger, like real, like foreboding kind of danger. And here's the thing is that I feel that it really comes across because our main characters in this movie are quite mortal. And just like in Winter Soldier, we do have super soldiers, right? So we have like, Red Guardian is not the main guy. Captain America obviously was his main, but we have like a super soldier. So someone who is super strong, but not invincible, not bulletproof, not unkillable. And so because
they both have Black Widow.
Yeah, and they both have Black Widow. And so because of that, both of these movies had like real stakes almost. And of course, I think every movie gives us stakes. Like, even in Thor, we know that like, he can fail and be hurt and things like that. But there is always this feeling that, I mean, like Iron Man is bulletproof and has like all these things at his disposal. Thor is practically unkillable. And like the Hulk, that, there's so many heroes that are just invulnerable to true damage, that they won't have to raise the stakes in those own movies. But here they're real people, regular people that are not bulletproof, just exceptional as who they are. But the stakes are very real. If they just get hit by a bullet, they're dead, really.
The more I think about it, the more similarities are between these movies, because in both of them, they're facing down against this like sort of shadowy undercover European organization,
Hmm.
like German versus Russian, Red Room versus Hydra, that are utilizing mind control to uh, control the main like fighting bad guy of the movie. But like the main fighting bad guy isn't the actual villain, they're just the means by which the villains are fighting our main character.
Hmm. Yeah. So just to organize how we continue talking about the movie, because I mean we touched on a few points already, but I guess we're gonna do a recap, but we're not gonna be super strict to it. I think we just like summarize up to certain points, then talk about anything we have right there.
Yeah, so let's let's start from the beginning in 1995.
Yeah, 1995, Ohio. We basically get Black Widow as a young girl and her sister, and they're undercover Russian agents, like like
Parents,
yeah, like they're undercover. What is the term that they use for like cold
sleeper
sleeper
cells.
cells? Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking cold. Yeah, sleeper cell Russian agents that are basically trying to invade a shield operation and steal some secrets, which they successfully do, and we see them escape. And we see this point where basically they're all separated. That that Alexei was actually Red Guardian and Melina was just a widow agent, and now they're all set. They're like, all right, we're gonna go off and be agents in Red Guardian, and you're gonna train to be Black Widows because that's what we do. We're Russian agents.
Yeah, but like they're also like, you really get this sense like before they get taken off, like at least for me, because I didn't know that they were like surrogate parents. Like part of me was I didn't understand what the situation was, so like I was like looking at these little girls and I was just like, especially the little Yelena girl, like it's just like you just feel for them because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
You know that they have to go become Black Widows, but it's just like such like a nice, it feels like such a nice family environment, and like to see it like kind of immediately gone away, like this really sets up well the feelings that we see portrayed by Florence Pugh, and to a certain extent Scarlett Johansson later in the movie.
yeah. When I mean, you really notice that it's clearly said that Natasha already was in the Red Room, so she's already had some training and already been through that stuff, and that
Yeah.
this was in a sense some kind of break
Yeah.
for her. Like she was able to like not keep doing that and become a little agent, so she got to live a normal life. She went from like a strange, like literally from birth being raised to be some like secret agent, probably through brutal means, and then got a taste of a regular life. And I don't know what's worse, having been raised like that and tasting it and then going back to it, or having never experienced it and having to have it all taken away from you. Like, because Yelena is, they say I don't know exactly how she was introduced or how they got her, but her not being like the actual child of these parents makes me question, like, where does she come? Where are her real parents?
So
like,
they were there for 3 years. Let's estimate Yelena looks like she's
6. I think that's the idea.
yeah, I got 6. So she was 3 when she got there. So a 3-year-old wasn't going through any training. So this was her entire life. When she says later that it felt real to her, it's because it was literally real for her.
Yeah.
And you know what? If there was any relationship that was definitely real, it was between the two sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And the downside is that they had to lose touch.
Yeah. And I mean, Natasha shows that when they're basically getting taken, like how she really cares for them. Like, I mean, if we can doubt like how much Alexei and Melina care, because like, oh, they're like, these are just some kids they threw us with, and we're Russian agents. We do get the sense that Natasha at least really cared about her sister. I mean, she literally was like, "I'll shoot you, I'll kill you," to stop them all. And because I mean, we just really feel it. We really feel that she knew what Yelena was basically probably going to go into. She knew what she was going back to. She was already ready, but Yelena did not know, and so she was protective over her. We know that she really did care at that time. Even if later Yelena's like, who knows if you even really cared, but we know that Yelena felt like she cared. She felt like it was a real family. That's what she knew.
Yeah.
And yes, and that, which makes it almost, again, I don't know what's worse. Is it worse to have been raised in a brutal environment like that and then have a taste of what it's like to be normal and then have it taken away from you? Or is it worse to have never known and then have it taken away from you? Have it like be like, this is my life, and then be like, no, this is your life now.
I would say, look, I can't answer for sure, but I would say I'd prefer to be in Natasha's shoes because she gets to truly enjoy the 3 years, and when they're going away, she gets to prepare for it. Whereas Yelena's like, oh, we're going on an adventure.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't understand, and she has to slowly, inch by inch, learn how like devastating that whole thing is. And yeah, so like the effects of how traumatizing that is shown with her like throughout the movie. But okay, so we finished, we're done with the past and they come to the future. Natasha is on the run from Shield,
directly following the events of Civil War.
Yeah.
So she, you know, and he specifically says you attacked the Wakandan prince, right? Which basically goes to the moment right when Black Panther. It's really weird that that's the only thing that they're like specifically charging for, because it's the moment she attacks Black Panther is literally when he's about to like catch Steve and Bucky.
Yeah.
And basically she sort of like turned coat and like shoots him, like stop him. Like a you know, like a stun, you know, electro dart thing that she has on her wrist.
Yeah, but she killed she attacked the king of Wakanda.
She did, but it's like I just think to myself, I'm like, that totally was a thing. She definitely did it, but like it's just funny that that's how like they like knew that they, like, I guess Black Panther went back and snitched on her. He said, oh, she attacked me and stopped me from being able to capture them.
Maybe Tony was the snitch. Maybe any of the people on their side was the snitch.
Yeah, and then that's what they were like, you broke the Scovia Accords, we're bringing you in.
Yeah,
which she did.
Because she showed up on their side and
then betrayed them.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was like I mean, it is a legitimate thing, but it seemed like weird that they were like, this is the thing. We're literally sending every military guy after you to make sure you go to jail.
But yeah, Steve and Natasha are the two that have not been apprehended, and they think that they're about to get Natasha, and oops, she's in a different country.
Yeah, because she's clearly a whole step above them, you know, far beyond them, way better than them. She's in a whole different country, and she's like, all right, I'm just going to go start a new life, literally like new identities, whatever, live in Norway, all good and cool. At the same time, we get her, you know, Yelena is tracking somebody down. In the process of tracking her down, is released from her mind control and is like, oh my God, what have I been doing?
She's been living life as a widow, working under the Red Room, pretty much under mind control, because we see her basically get released with this red dust. Yeah. And like she instantly realizes what happens, and she is able to take like this little case filled with these red vials that presumably are going to be able to release the other widows. And what does she do with it? She sends it to Budapest.
Yeah, she leaves, or she really sends it to, I get.
She sends it to.
No, she doesn't send it to Budapest because she leaves it in the Budapest safe house mail so it can be taken to Natasha.
Yeah.
Because she's in Budapest. She's in the safe house.
Yeah.
So like she doesn't want it with her because she'll be tracked down. She wants it with Natasha.
Well, she's trying to send it to Natasha through Budapest.
Yeah. So, but Natasha gets it, and basically on her, like, I'm gonna, you know, be chill and just live by myself, is attacked by Taskmaster, who's trying to recover the vials. He thinks that he does, but doesn't. Natasha has them. Whatever. Until that point, everybody thought he was a man.
I didn't.
I thought the frame was that of a guy, and I think it was supposed to be a reveal, and it wasn't supposed to look like the lithe feminine form. Whatever.
The Red Room, like, they only have female agents. 2, Matthew Patrick predicted it being a female Taskmaster like 2 years ago.
Whatever. I'm going to use whatever pronouns I want. Moving on, Taskmaster thinks that they recover the vials, but they do not. Natasha secures them. Natasha realizes it came from Budapest, goes there.
Realizes it came from her sister because the picture was left with it.
Right, yes.
Their childhood picture.
Yes. Goes to Budapest, meets up with Yelena. And
they fight at first, but then they come together when they're attacked by the widows.
yes, and then they escape the widows.
Car chase, motorcycle chase, all that ensues.
Yeah.
Great action.
Yeah, exactly. Like so up to this point, like we have cool little scene. Like this movie is really action packed, truly, almost more so than like Winter Soldier. If we like kind of use that as somewhat of a comparison, like we're talking about action scene with Yelena, action scene with Taskmaster, action scene with Yelena and Natasha escaping widows.
And this doesn't even include the airplane takeoff at the beginning of the movie, which honestly I thought was really tight too.
Yeah, it's
interesting to watch yourself root for the Russian spies to get away from the American government when in reality, had they been caught, then Natasha and Yelena would have lived normal lives.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, at least for me, I was definitely like, come on, they got to get away. They got to go.
Yeah.
But like, had they been apprehended, like the two little girls, those are probably going to just be taken into like foster care. And like, maybe they would have lived like not the greatest lives, but like Yelena would have a uterus.
All right, so we just got it right here, folks. Communist sympathizer on the podcast here. Rooting for the Russian agents.
They're not... Actually, see, here's another thing about
he's
this.
Red Guardian. Like,
but it's like 1995. The wall is down. Like, that's the real question. They're working for the Red Room. And at this point, I suppose the Red Room isn't really the Communist Party. I don't know. It's kind of...
Just like Hydra is basically a leftover Nazi command. The Red Room is definitely, I'm assuming, a leftover, like, now, again, it doesn't have to be strictly communist, but certainly the ideals of the like Russian Communist Party.
I was just splitting hairs on whether or not it was working for the communist. Like, it wasn't the Soviet Union at this point, but like I said, like, in reality, you should be rooting for them to get caught because one, they're stealing stuff from S.H.I.E.L.D., who I guess is Hydra at this point, but like S.H.I.E.L.D. is still better than the Red Room.
Specifically, they even say like that was Hydra developing the technology they stole.
Yeah, because it's essentially what they used on Bucky, but like a more advanced version, I would presume.
It's actually, I think what they were working on is more specifically stuff that they were like. If anybody watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's like an arc where there's a mind control thing.
Yeah,
and I think that technology they were using there was more what they were using in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as opposed to what Bucky was using was like a chemical brainwashing, like literally activation, like actual like
but like it came like they had that need for mind control in the past and they were just able to develop it more. It's not exactly what was used on Bucky, but it's the same intent.
Yeah, I think what they used on Bucky was kind of like what they used on Natasha almost. They said that they did programming on her and they programmed Bucky. They didn't have mind control. They weren't
I'm saying that's not what it happened, but they developed the mind control as an easier method than the programming.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, action scenes up to this point. I mean, that's the thing about this movie is that like I really commend it for balancing action and narrative. Like we definitely get narrative moments, but it's always like action, narrative, action, narrative, action, and the action is like essentially pushing the narrative forward. Like normally there's just like, I mean, you watch an action movie and it's just gratuitous action almost for no reason. This is always like the action is part of like what's supposed to be happening. Like they're being pursued by the widows, which then pushes them to go to the next place. Taskmaster like basically takes Natasha from where if she doesn't send the vials there and like Natasha would just been like chilling basically. Yeah. That action sequence is a pushing her forward, in the story a little bit. And so I appreciate how they use action here. It's almost better than a normal action movie because sometimes normal action movies, it's, the people are just fighting for the sake of fighting.
So after this action, the set piece in Budapest, they like are just sort of driving away and we're getting a chance for the sisters to like, interact with each other. Yelena and Natasha, and this is, at least for me, this is where I started to realize that Florence Pugh really was just gonna like steal this movie. Yeah, this is really up to the point. Like once we start getting more of her interacting with Natasha,
Especially just like, Marvel, they're known for dropping in their like funny stuff, right? Like they got to do the funny things. But I want to say about this movie is that they didn't overdo it. It was done in like sort of like in an amusing way, like these amusing little moments. But it wasn't too much. It wasn't like ha ha ha, like major joke. It was just like her being a.
This is I specifically like listened to a review of this movie where they made a note that it's not just that the humor was like used at different moments or whatever. It's that it's a different kind of humor, specifically Florence Pugh, because a lot of Marvel is like the sort of quippy jokes that like the same joke could be said by Iron Man, could be said by Doctor Strange, could be said by pretty much anybody, because they're just like sort of like quippiness. Whereas Yelena is not quippy because like she's basically lived a very like messed up life, and so like her humor is like kind of like weird non sequitur humor, like her talking about her vest early on in the movie, that was just like, so it was just such like a natural funny.
And you know what I want to say is like, having spoken and noticed this in quite a few female friends of mine, I feel like that was really just touching a lot of women, and the whole idea of pockets, that whole pockets thing.
There's so many pockets.
Yeah, there's so many pockets. You wouldn't even know what they have in here. Like I have heard that same sentiment from so many girls where they're just so fascinated by having pockets, like more pockets on things, because apparently like women's clothes and stuff just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, I'm not a girl, but I felt like that was touching women in some way right there. And it was just so like interestingly, like just it was amusingly like on point.
But yeah, so and through their interactions, we get the reveal that the Red Room wasn't brought down. Natasha really thought that she killed I can't remember the name. Dreykov. Thought she killed Dreykov. Thought she shut down the Red Room, but it's been going on this whole time, and she's been none the wiser.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, we get them, and they're like, "All right, well, we need to find the Red Room. We don't know who would know where it's at except for our pseudo father." And so they're like, let's go break him out. Let's go find him. And they go to some like Arctic prison, underground Russian Arctic prison.
Presumably in Siberia.
Yeah, something like that. And, they basically go and enact a plan to release Alexei, who we get like, again, David Harbour just being really funny as him. He is a character where he's just being funny as himself, just like Florence Pugh just being herself and being funny. He's the same way, where he's not saying any like quippy funny
just him being going through the arm wrestling and talking about I was fighting Captain America in the 80s, and like Captain America was still asleep then. Are you calling me liar?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because we know. So I believe that like Red Guardian was supposed to be like a, like, oh, this is like an antagonistic force to Captain America kind of thing. And like in the comics, like they surely battled. And so, but like we know
the timeline doesn't match up for the MCU.
Yeah, in the MCU it didn't happen. And so it's like kind of like it's a thing that he wishes like that would have been his nemesis, the person he was supposed to face. And he just like never really got that. So he has to like kind of imagine or create this bravado of like what he like should have gotten to do.
But yeah, so like you get like the prison escape scene, like, cause like when they like get him out, like he's supposed to like do this like quietly, but he instantly, like the second Natasha says don't make a scene, he goes and he punches through the glass to steal the baked goods that were sent for him.
Yeah, I mean, like, fuck those guys. Like, they were literally eating cookies that were sent to him.
Yeah, and so he starts eating the cookies, but he's made a big scene for himself. So now everyone's trying to chase after him or get out themselves.
Yeah, guards just trying to stop him from leaving. And I assume all the prison mates are like the Red Guardian, because he's probably been like a bully to all of us in this prison for however long, like making us listen to stories and beating us in arm wrestling competitions for however many years.
So we see that Natasha and Yelena have this helicopter that they got from Natasha's friend, the agent, and the helicopter comes in, and it's just this like really cool sequence of prison escape, Black Widow fighting a bunch of bad guys, doing the Black Widow pose.
Yeah, that
was another really funny thing that that keeps coming back, is the Black Widow pose every time you see it.
Yeah, now it's like now it's been pointed out. You're like, oh, ha. Well.
And like, but like the instant she like that Yelena does the Black Widow pose in the movie,
Mhm.
you know exactly what she's talking about, and you
Yeah.
can picture Black Widow doing it like three separate movies, pretty much.
Yeah,
At least for me.
Yeah, it's just it's her thing, like it's her like yeah, she dropped into the widow like pose or whatever.
And it turned that pose from like, oh, Black Widow to making it funny, which you almost got to respect that like they would keep it in the movie, that Scarlett Johansson would be cool basically poking fun at herself that much, because it does sort of rob the coolness of that pose and turns it into a bit of a joke, but it's still cool because like
it's cool. It was
it's
always
followed
cool,
up with her kicking ass every time.
Yeah. And one thing I think like her mentioning that, like that dropping in there kind of goes with like this sort of like a little bit like, okay, because Taskmaster has this like theme of copying things,
Yeah.
right? And so like there's like a theme of like copy here, right? And so the idea of like her doing that and then later Florence Pugh copying her, and the fact that she points out like you do this every time kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's this idea of like you replicate the same move every time and then she replicates it later. So I think it's just like a little point that almost ties in with the general theme, right? Of this like, copying that is there. So that's just another one little interesting point I noticed.
Yeah. So, but I think this whole, and like they trigger an avalanche to occur too. So now they have to get out like while being shot at, while guards are keeping Alexei from getting up to where the helicopter is, while Black Widow's having to fight off, while Florence Pugh is flying a helicopter and shoots like a rocket. That ended up causing the avalanche. And then this avalanche is happening. I just think this is a cool ass scene.
Yeah, no, it's like really well done where she's like battling people. There's a tension. There's literally like a time thing now. Like there is an avalanche coming. If you don't do this like, sooner than later, you're just going to get like, he's going to get buried. All these people are going to die, whatever. So yeah, it increases the stakes. It's not just like, oh, inevitably, eventually Black Widow and Guy will escape because she'll just win. And we assume he will. But now it's like, you need to escape in the next 30 seconds or you're going to be buried in snow. And
they do get out. They both make it on the rope out. And I just like the little touch of Florence Pugh, like when she sees that like both of them made it out on the rope, she just like, yes.
Yeah.
She was like, cool.
Yep. Yeah. Again, there's this charm in how Florence Pugh plays Yelena that just keeps coming through the movie. We'll just keep pointing it out. One thing I want to say though, this is a tiny criticism, just one of those like, and of course we can be like, okay, I assume that this is real and this is real. You're gonna tell me that these guys were lighting up this like janky ass helicopter,
and
they never hit the rotors or anything important?
That's where I had to have some suspense of disbelief. The amount of times they're just shot at and nothing happens.
No. See, suspense of disbelief is I can assume that these people are all super heroic and can do these things and drop out of the plane and da-da-da. When someone shoots at a fucking beat up helicopter like that, like those things are quite delicate. Like helicopters are very delicate. If you fuck with the instruments a little bit, like those things are not going to be able to fly. And like it's getting hit by like a heavy machine gun fire, like consistently. Like the bullets are just ripping through it, and we just watch it. I'm like, okay, cool. Never hits any important systems. Apparently, the whole hull of this thing was strong enough to like whatever. All right, cool. That was beyond my suspense of disbelief. I was like, this is not how machines work. Okay, whatever. We'll just move on. But sometimes like those things just stick out of my head and just like, this doesn't make sense. But what they could have done is like the guy was preparing to fire and Yelena was already ready and was like, get bent before it's shot too much. Would be a little more like, add to her being aware or, a cool assassin and stuff.
I thought about it when it was happening, but it didn't take me out. I get what you mean. But they got away.
And then we get this interaction between this sort of like arrogant interaction between Alexei Red Guardian and Natasha and Yelena, where we see like we just get a really clear view of like what this guy's whole mindset. We get it in the prison where he's like, I fought Captain America and da da da. This real super arrogance. Like this guy, like I am a big deal.
Machismo bravado.
Yeah, exactly. Which I don't know if that's supposed to be kind of like a general like portrayal of like a Russian stereotype or even just like a who he is, right?
I think it's more who he is.
Yeah, and it's because we get the idea that it's just he's like, I am the Red Guardian. I was supposed to be the biggest deal, and that even though he basically like wasn't that big a deal. Like he says he's like he was stuck in prison for all these years. He thinks that he was a great father or whatever, but like he kind of wasn't. He played his role. We don't know what he was actually like as a father for those 3 years up until that one point.
But at some point he stopped being their father and sent them off. And we get the Yelena like very carefully explaining to him what happened to them, like specifically with like the uterus removal, and like he's just like, oh no, stop talking about this. No, I don't want to hear this. This is too graphic. And like it's graphic, yeah, because you let that happen to them.
Yeah. I want to say that this is like a point in this movie where, okay, and like you'll by the end of the movie you get the sense, but I really love this as a like movie for like a role model type like movie for girls. I think that this movie portrays like the women as being badasses, not because they are women, but just because they are badasses. It like gives the idea that you can be a badass woman and it doesn't have to be because you're a woman. And like I appreciate, and it also just addresses these like sort of like womanly things in a normal way, like them just talking about like women's reproductive organs and stuff.
Yeah,
movies won't do that. I mean, like,
well, so
most people won't even like, you can't bring those things up because it's like too taboo.
So here's the thing: the MCU has dealt with this before. When Black Widow revealed that she couldn't have kids, I believe it was to Bruce in maybe Age of Ultron. She revealed that, and it was sort of like a touching scene. And in this movie, it's played much more like grimly and solemnly,
yeah,
but like also like as a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's like very serious. Like it's like, hey, this was a fucked up thing that happened.
Yeah,
but like it's not like the end of the world for me. Like me not being able to have kids doesn't like make me not a fucking human.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that's like a general point that they make. It's really good. I mean, because there are unfortunately some women out there that don't have that ability or never got the chance. And the idea of like taking this movie and making a point of like, hey, it's okay. You can still be good and significant and valuable.
You can still be a woman.
Yeah, you're still a woman even without that. It doesn't define you. And like the fact that like being a woman does not define them in this movie. They are just kick-ass, badass like heroes. I mean, they're not, like Black Widow's a hero and they do heroic things here, but they're not all good here. Like Yelena is still an assassin at the end, like probably ends up continuing to be an assassin.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah. But I just like, I think that is how you really portray women in film in a way that's like to be a real model for girls. And I like that about this whole movie. I love that they did that in Black Widow. They didn't make it about her being a woman at any point. They dealt with like female issues in a really real way. And I love that. And that conversation right there was another like moment where they were just like, this is just normal. You can talk about reproductive organs. It's like everybody has them. Like you shouldn't shy away from these kind of topics. And to your point, that when that just because they don't have them doesn't make them any less.
Yeah. So they've broken out Alexei and they start asking Alexei where the Red Room is. And he's like, I don't know. I've been in prison. But you know who would know? Melina, your mother.
Yeah.
And they're like, our mom's still alive? And he's like, yeah, she lives in a farm in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't think this helicopter is going to get there. And he's like, no, it will be fine. Cut to the helicopter falling out of the sky.
Yeah, very like dad moment where he's just like, nah, it's cool, it's good, and then it's like, oh, it wasn't good. But yeah, so they they drop out nearby and then they walk over and Melina sees them coming and they go in and it's family reunion. Even though for some of them they're like, this isn't a family reunion. They're like, well, it is. Like we were a family. And
this is where you get the really touching. Basically, Yelena revealing to the rest of the family, like you guys this may have been an act for you guys, but I was too young to ever think that this was an act. This was so real to me, and to hear you guys trivializing it as if it never really mattered, it's like heartbreaking for her to hear, and she has to leave the room, and it allows for Alexei to come in and do like, at first he's just doing his like, I'm a dumb, like he doesn't really understand what she needs to hear. But then we get this touching, like little singing along to American Pie. Yeah. And it's just so sweet. Like,
yeah, because it just shows that like, hey, he's like, I never forgot you. Like I always, like I know that this was your favorite song. Like in just a small way, right? Like what else could he do to be like, hey, this is your favorite song? Again, it's been 21 years and he never forgot that.
Yeah.
Like I mean, obviously we haven't lived that long, but 21 years ago is like, I don't remember half of that shit. So
I it's one of those things where I cannot really say what I remember from when I was 5. So
exactly. But and even if it's like, okay, cool, you know, that like we were young then, but like still, it is the same. Like we were fully aware at that point in your life. Like you could remember those things. To say 10 years ago, I don't remember, you know, certain things. Yeah, and so for him to remember that 21 years ago, clearly it had an impact on him. The favorite song of his pseudo daughter, but yeah, kind of a touching moment, and a point where like almost in the moment, like I think Natasha is actually, because she's the one that really does trivialize it. She's like, it was fake, it wasn't real,
and Yelena's just like, no, don't say that, don't say that.
yeah,
because it especially hurt, I think, hearing it from Natasha, because like her parents, she could be like, yeah, whatever, but like hearing her, basically the big sister that she grew up with, say that none of their relationship was real, like really, like you could tell it hurt her.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, because the parents, they even tried to say like, hey, like maybe it wasn't real, but like we did a great job. And I will say that for the small moments we get, it's very short, but we do get like Melina when she's with the kids before she knows anything's over. She's like, you know, oh yeah, paintings are so, like she does teach them. She's like teaching them even in that moment. Like these are things that'll make you stronger. Like she's being a caring parent and trying to teach them even in her way. Like she definitely was like bioluminescence, like clearly a scientist basically. But in their ways, trying, I mean, still was making the dinner and saying, hey, get some ranch for your dad and yada yada. And when he comes home, before he says anything, he is like, we're gonna go on an adventure. Like he's trying to be a parent in that moment.
Yeah.
He is trying to like present it to them in a way where it's like, you know, hey, we're gonna go on this, even though like they're about to literally like go run from the police and like shoot at them and stuff.
But like I think the striking moment is when Melina is making, basically staring at Natasha. Natasha knows what's going on. Melina knows what's going on, and Melina just says, "I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then even to the end, right before they're taken away, right? He knows that like they're going on and moving on to do what they're doing, but like in this care for his daughters, Alexei is like, you are both strong. You are my kids, and you are going to like he bolsters them. He does what a dad would do, which is inspire them with confidence before they have to go. And like if he really didn't care, like why would he even say that? He'd be like, all right, peace out, kids. Like bye.
Because in this moment, like Natasha's stolen a gun and she's like threatening them, and like had he not like calmed him down, the easier thing to do would have been to just like kill the kid. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because it looked like she was going to be difficult.
Yeah. You know, like is that like simple as that? Like they could have just been like, all right, these, you know, like getting annoying. Like you're not even in the program yet. We don't care. Don't need you. Like it could have been handled like that. But he came in there and like their father tried to inspire them with confidence.
I also like the little moment like where he like picks up the little stuffed My Little Pony toy, and like, because like if he didn't care, then like why would he have even picked that up?
Yeah. Or the same thing, like why did Melina keep the, like she literally told her no, don't take it, but then she kept it anyway, and all the photos were fake. But even if the photos were fake, the memories are still real. Like that time was still real. And we do get the idea, even if it seems like in some way, and Tasha says like, oh, it was fake. And yet that like, they all cherish that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, they like Alexei liked being a father, and they did
there's a reason that when Alexei like saw that the girls had saved him, like he was like excited to see them. Mm-hmm. Like he was like, my girls have returned. Yeah. And like Melina, like sure, Melina calls the Red Room on them when they get here, but like she also lets them approach. Like she had a, like she could have like been way more harsh, and like once she really like gets into the motions of it, because it's been like 20 years, so you can understand her not being aligned with them immediately, but like when like her, like when the feelings start coming out, she does like sort of come to terms with the fact that, hey, like I care more about you guys, and fuck the Red Room.
Yeah. I mean, like she lets them approach, and even if she does, it's almost like she's actually been working with them all this time. So, I mean, because of that, it's like she never, like, to say Alexei got put in prison. So he was like, okay, fuck them. He was actually on the automatic, fuck them, for 20 years now. She's been working with them all this time, serving the purpose that she's always served. Like she was a widow before. She even said, I've been through the Red Room 4 times already. She was serving this purpose for literal like years and years and years before she was ever a mother, this mother figure. And even after that, she still like, I see more in her. Like it was still this drilled into her, and this is how you have to be. But to say, even with all that in mind, that she was in there multiple times, and it served all this time, that those 3 years, that time with the girls, was so important to her that she still was like, even though she automatically was like, I need to call on them, like call them in, she still told Natasha, gave them the moment, and then helped her bring them down. Was still, like, even though it's ingrained in me that I was programmed and controlled to serve and do this and have done it for all these years, that I still care about you all more than enough to like throw it all away.
Exactly.
And so again, it just, I think even though it seems raw what they did, and this is why it's so nuanced, right? We get enough things that we're observing here to see the nuance of what that family was like, and how even though they could let it go, it did matter to them, and how an interesting, weird, fractured thing to see that, like Black Widow Natasha makes it clear, like, she found a family with the Avengers, that like, and we could see that, like, she had like what she thought was a family basically taken away from her, and then was alone all these years, and like the closest thing to her was Barton, who like saved her, person that was supposed to kill her, saved her, and then helped her escape. And that she grew to love the Avengers and like and appreciate them as people that she cared for. And at the end of this movie, I mean, it's not like a spoiler, but at the end of this movie, she's like, I realized I did have two families. The family I had here was still real, even if I felt like it was nothing. And I have the Avengers, and that, I mean, that's like a really awesome, beautiful thing.
This movie, like the other big blockbuster of this summer, Fast and the Furious 9, it's all about family.
It's all about family, yo.
Yeah.
But in that time when they're there, we have all these interactions, and we really get like this. This was a perfect interaction where we get like the cementing, like this, again, that nuance of their family and how it was real, but also like not. And like kind of this, like, there's a little bit of reconciling here to a degree of like airing out these things, like, it was fake. It wasn't fake to me. Like them all like talking about, like, because basically the last time they all saw each other together was literally the day when that ended. But after that, I don't know if Natasha ever saw Yelena during that time, but she was aware of her. She knew that she existed. Probably didn't know where Melina was. Obviously, Alexei was just in prison the whole time. So like, yeah, they have not actually been together since that moment. So they never talked about it.
Here's the thing. I don't know if Alexei was in prison the whole time. They don't really dig into the details of that, but he's probably been in prison a while because he still knew where Melina lived. So.
I guess you're right. Yeah. He did say, like, I thought it was like he's been there the whole time, because he referenced like, well, he just threw me in prison. Like, I was going to come back and be blah, blah, and he just threw me in prison.
But he had enough information of what was going on outside. Maybe he was just being fed it through the prison, but
yeah. So, that, I mean, I guess that is potential, but we get this moment, and then it turns like, we find out, oh, the Red Room's coming, and we get this, basically they show up, they take them all, and they take them to the Red Room, which is, literally on like a spaceship in the sky.
And that's why they stayed above the radar.
Yeah, like how they say above the radar, even though that's not the term. It's below the radar.
Yeah. But
yeah, whatever. Like, but I get it. Above the radar, it makes sense, because they're literally beyond even the ability to be seen. And so they're taken there, and we get Melina is brought to Dreykov, and Yelena is going to get
Natasha is.
Yes, I know. Well, we all know. Like, I want to say this. I saw it. I really saw it immediately that was the plan. Like, I was not fooled at all.
I didn't think that it was the face swap thing, because I always forget that that's a thing in these movies. So my thought was that Natasha was the one that was passed out, but she was like given like some trick to get out, and then Melina was gonna like turn tide. But so I them swapping places, I thought was cool too.
Yeah, I knew that it was gonna happen, because when she opened the little secret area, we see two these it didn't really have anything on it, but they just look like these two facial things. And I was like, oh,
that was a good catch. Then
it's the facial swap technology. Yeah. And as soon as it was like, oh, Natasha's just captured, the fact that Natasha was just captured and was there and we didn't see anything happen, I was like, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that happened. Melina didn't tell her and then knock Natasha out. We didn't hear anything. There was no fight going on. Like, Natasha's just going to fall down. So it was all kind of I knew immediately that was kind of the plan. And that's why it might have been more surprising if I hadn't known. But because I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh, I see how this is going to play out. Okay, I see their plan. This is clever.
But yeah, so the climax, a lot of stuff is sort of going on in the climax. We get Melina trying to ground the ship, which at first she tries to do it through the normal means of having the ship go down. But then she decides to just blow up an engine, which leads to some chaos. Alexei's just sort of muscling his way through, fights with Taskmaster a little bit. That's a pretty cool little fight there.
Yeah, except he just gets beat up basically.
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe there would be like some cool redemption, like Taskmaster hasn't had enough time to study his moves, so maybe Red Guardian can get like an edge on Taskmaster or something.
But
no, it was just he got a moment to battle, and I think it is in some way it was supposed to be representative of the fact that Taskmaster has copied Captain America's moves and was using the shield, even though I did also use the claws. This was like a moment for whether he knew it or not. I think it was supposed to be like a Red Guardian is facing Captain America equivalent.
Yeah.
Someone that's a mimic of Captain America, or at least the Avengers. Like you're basically fighting the Avengers and Captain America right now. And even though he gets beaten, it's like a moment for him to live the glory that he never got.
But they also get the Taskmaster locked up in a cell. So
yeah. So I guess he does succeed in a sense in the fight. Like he neutralizes Taskmaster to the like if Natasha hadn't let Taskmaster out, then Taskmaster would have died.
And then Yelena is tasked with taking the red vials and then taking them to the Widows, who by the time that she's gotten to the Widows have been called to Dreykov's office, which Dreykov's office, that's sort of the bulk of what we're paying attention to, because that's where Natasha is. And what do you think of this scene, this whole situation? Because I've heard a lot of people like kind of feel that him as a bad guy is a bit either underused or just underwhelming.
Okay, so I think that there were like the stakes were raised in like him. One, I don't think he was underused or underwhelming. I maybe he was underwhelming in the sense it was like, oh my god, but like, okay, first of all, this guy is just like an operator. He's just an operator behind the things. He's not a combatant, so he's not going to get into an action-y fight. What he then employs though during that time is one, his awareness and his control. Right, that's his whole thing, is that he is aware and in all these different things and stuff, and that he has control over everything around him.
Yeah.
So the fact that one, he recognizes that Natasha. He says, I always know that the eyes of the blah, blah. Like he knew the whole time he was talking to Melina that it was actually Natasha, even through the face swap technology.
Yeah.
So that was one, like, I thought that was kind of like, again, shows his like awareness as a villain, his like one of those attributes of who he is. And then the control, the fact that he, was like, I'm going to have this conversation because I know that you can't harm me. I knew that you couldn't harm me this whole time. There's nothing you could do to shoot me because I have like a literal pheromone here.
Yeah.
And I think this whole thing though is subverting his idea of like, I'm aware and I know and I'm so in control, and subverting that, because Natasha had all the information to subvert, him the entire time. And all she was doing was the exact same thing. And this is like that moment of copy, or like, basically her doing a same thing, which is exactly what she does to Loki, where she sits there and she talks like, oh my God, you're like beating me. You're really beating me down this mental game here to get them to reveal more or to show more. And does the exact same thing here. It shows like a real power of Black Widow, which is to use.
Is it the beginning of the Avengers movie? I know that you're talking about something with her and Loki, but like even in the beginning of the first Avengers movie, the way that she's brought in is that she's interrogating some people while she's the one tied up to a chair.
Yep.
And like she answers a phone call and says, I'm interrogating some guys.
Yeah.
And it's just this like sort of like, okay, so you get that like even when it looks like she's powerless, she's the one in control.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's even like she, like I would say in a way, this is like her even using like an expectation of women is that like, oh, they're going to be less powerful, whatever. Like, and she uses that like, oh, you think that you're dominating me right now, that you're winning this game here. And she uses that to her advantage.
Yeah.
And right here, she does the same thing. She's like, she's aware of the pheromone thing. She's aware that she can't harm him. But she knows how to deactivate. She knows like, all I have to do is wham. Like I just need to pop the nerve and I can get him.
Basically, she's in control of the situation until the Widows come in.
Yeah. Until the Widows come in, which you didn't quite see. But even then, she's still in control because she stole his ring. Yeah. Like she wanted to be in the room. She wanted him to go.
Okay, so she would have been basically screwed had Yelena not come in and release the Widows.
Yeah, she would have. And this is where we see like, oh, like, the sisterly love. Oh, she helped save like, we get that kind of moment. But I understand some people's criticism about him not being as much of a villain, but like the whole point is that you can't look at him as like him there, that single guy. You have to look at what he created and what he was doing. Like, you got to look at him as the villain, as everything he did. He set Taskmaster after them. He set all the Widows after them and was a constant hounding on them. And like, even up to this point, like his control, his awareness, his like, how did he keep finding them? How did he know that they were in Budapest? How did he know that? Like, I mean, he kept being, even to the point where he he's not in control of Melina, but like the fear or the whatever it is that's instilled in Melina made her be like, I need to report them. Even though I don't want to, like, I need to do it.
Melina's gut instinct was to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that he set up. So him as a villain is not like him, the single guy, but like everything that he orchestrated and put together. And into that moment, it was beating his ability to control and be aware of all the situations. And that was what Natasha did. She subverted his control utterly and was able to take him down because of that.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I liked his sort of like Russian Tony Soprano shtick.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing Taskmaster revealed in the same scene with him as his daughter, which I kind of called.
Oh, I super called it. Yeah. Like, I literally almost immediately, like, when they were like, oh, like when I found out that Dreykov survived the thing, I was like, oh, his daughter survived too, and she's Taskmaster now. Like, that's just it. I was like, there's no other reveal. Why would we even keep talking about her daughter? I know it was like a big point, but I was like, there's no, other than like her feeling regret over that, they keep mentioning her daughter. I was like, all right, well, there's nobody else that could tell us who Taskmaster is, so it's got to be his daughter.
Yeah.
Like, guarantee. And she's in like a robot. I thought she would be in like more of a robot body or something. Like, she had to be like put back together and stuff. And so I don't know what her rest of her body looks like, but I mean, but like she had a like, okay, there was a little literal bomb in front of this little girl. And, maybe they used some badass technology to bring her back, but like she has a scar on the side of her face and one of her eyes is just slightly cloudy. I was like, come on here. Come on. Whatever, I get it, like obviously Dreykov survived, so maybe like, she was at the, like, there was some kind of defensive thing they had or anticipation of the bomb or
technology,
something like that.
Skin grafts, who knows?
Hey, honestly, like I thought to myself, I was like, it's not that hard to believe that they had some kind of bomb sending technology. They have that in the White House. Like, that's a normal thing. You can like sense the materials of bombs and stuff, like any kind of like C4 and explosives, and they have those sort of like checkpoints at like in major government areas. Like, they don't just let you like walk in with bombs easily. So like the idea, even though like, oh, the daughter walked in and they didn't check her, I'm like, bullshit. They check everybody.
Yeah.
I think it was like they gave they maybe sensed it too late or something, but like it's totally within the possibility that they knew it was coming and yada. Nonetheless. Definitely saw it coming though.
Yeah. And so the widows are released. Black Widow steals the information from Alexei's computer with the ring that she took from him, and is able to utilize that later on to give to Yelena to go around and release all the widows.
Yeah. And that's truly, I think, like, her getting all that is truly beating him. Because let's say you kill him, though, right? But the network still exists. And the fact that, like, that console or something can exist somewhere else. Like, I'm sure the Red Room's not the only way that he would control someone. Like, he wouldn't just have a fucking tablet or some other base that he exists in somewhere else.
Yeah.
So some other person that's even somewhat in the know of this organization would be like, all right, well, we'll just assume his thing and go take over the Black Widows that exist still and still have the exact same control. So her getting the information of all the Black Widows so that they can then take down that network, like release all of them, all those girls, was key. That was really defeating him, I think. Not just killing him, but like defeating his whole plan.
100. And then we also see Natasha taking the time to free Taskmaster from the cell that Alexei put her into.
Yeah.
And because Natasha doesn't want to see like this person die for no good reason. Like she let her die.
Mm-hmm.
She thought she killed her before, so this time she's trying to make it up to her.
Yeah.
But because of the ship's like falling apart, Taskmaster gets separated, and Natasha is basically running off, trying to escape some more. And then she sees Yelena, and Yelena sees Dreykov flying off, about to go off in a helicopter. But before he gets the chance to, Yelena basically takes this fighting stick thing.
Yeah, it's like the combination of like the Widow's stun baton and makes it into a stun staff or whatever.
And then uses it to jam like the blades in the engine or whatever of the ship that Dreykov's about to fly off in. And it sends her like flying off of the ship. But it also like successfully causes his ship to like just explode. And Dreykov is killed, and Yelena did it.
Yeah.
But then we get Natasha like finding a parachute and jumping off.
Yeah. Oh, a couple more moments I want to say, like, these moments of like again, like copy or repetition and stuff like that. Where when we have sort of like the redeeming moment, right, of like the potential for Black Widow to stand by, but if she just stood by, the girl would have died, right? And that's what she had to do before. It was like stand by and eliminate a danger. If she like letting go of Taskmaster might have prevented her from killing Dreykov, right? So like she could have stood by, let this girl die, and gone after Dreykov to make sure that she was dead. This time she was like, no, like this might have repeated here, but I'm going to change what it was. And then we have a repeat of earlier in the movie we have Yelena say something like that would be a fun way to die. And then later when she's about to get her head cut open, be like, this is not fun. Like not a fun way to die.
It's a lot of callbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, it's just repetition of the similar things. Again, Yelena even here, the dropping in as the Black Widow, repeating the same stuff. And even another, again, the theme of repetition or copying is that like we hear from Melina when she says, I've been through the Red Room 4 times. Like that the Black Widows have just been continuously copying, repeating over and over again. Like this just continuously happens over and over.
Yeah. And it's about breaking that cycle.
Yep. It's breaking the cycle of the copying, of the repetition here. I think that's maybe even is I think that might be the core of the theme of the movie. It's like the cycle of repetition and breaking that cycle to move into a better direction.
I still think the core theme of the film is family, but
there can be more than one theme in a movie. So I don't know if it's the core theme to say family though, because family is an element here, but I think the core theme is that repetition. It's breaking the cycle. I would argue potentially that, because I don't know that family is inherent to them. If we removed her family from being here, they could have done all the same. Like if Red Guardian and Melina are not in the movie, we can still hit all the similar beats with just her and her sister. And it doesn't need to be about their family.
But it's still family. Look, they're just living life a quarter mile at a time.
Yeah, I would argue it's not the core theme, but it certainly is there. Obviously, we like the family thing. But yeah, so I think again, right there, this would be fun. Like she assumed that she was doing this and was going to die. Yeah, and was like, but this was a more fun way to die.
Yeah,
and she was willing to do that.
But we get Natasha saving her in.
Of course,
again, one of the coolest sequences of the movie is this just like falling sequence of first saving Yelena, and then we see Taskmaster like shooting down towards them, and it's
these are small tiny criticisms, not even like really a big deal, but one convenient parachute laying on the ground, one though, like very convenient, really great, glad that was there. If it's not there, then Yelena doesn't get saved, and whatever. And then I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, because they're like falling through the sky, and you get like sort of an idea that they're pretty, like they're very high up, and they've been falling for a minute,
and then they are landing. Yeah,
but I'm like, Natasha, probably not the best idea to activate the parachute when they're literally in the scene, stuff still falling from above you. Could literally just shatter the fucking parachute.
That's true.
I was like, you might have let her fall a little further to like a safer-ish area. Like she could have guided her fall like to around the debris more. Like you can drop the parachute a lot later than that. I just remember, but she just had to. She'd be like, I'm saving you, boom, bye, and I'm jumping off of you now. But I just remember thinking that, just one of those little like,
And then Natasha pushes off of Yelena to deal with Taskmaster. They end up back on the ground, the parachute taking them down. And we get one last basically fight between them. But this time Natasha has a goal in mind. She's not trying to beat Taskmaster. She's trying to save Taskmaster. So she manages to get the helmet released. And she uses one of the vials that she took to release I think it's Antonia. What's
I think it is Antonia.
Yeah, so she releases Antonia from the mind control, and
she's like, thank you.
Is he gone?
Yeah.
Like just to like show like this was his daughter, and she was still like he was like the nightmare, like boogeyman in a way to her.
He was all about subjugation control. That was his whole thing. And they subverted all that, by releasing not only his daughter, releasing in the future, releasing the widows immediately under control. Yeah. Taking down the Red Room so it couldn't be replicated. Breaking the cycle of control, and and that was kind of one of the final things there.
And then we sort of get the separation of Natasha from her family. because she leaves them to go off and save the widow. She gives the information to Yelena and tells her Melina can copy this the red dust to save all the girls, but she left it up to Yelena to do. And presumably that's what Yelena goes off and does, while Natasha stays behind to deal with Shield that's coming after her. Or does she? Because we know she's not captured, and we know that she goes on to meet back up with Steve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And we see how she gets the not, I don't know if it's a Quinjet, but basically like a Quinjet that she is then the Quinjet that she then takes. And I had to go look this up later because she gives her that vest. It is the vest that she's wearing in
that
in Infinity War.
See, that's a really good touch.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so like that vest that she's wearing is the vest that, yeah, like it wasn't just a set piece. Yeah, I mean, and that's basically where we get to the resolution of the movie, not including our post-credit scene.
But then that post-credit scene,
yeah,
Natasha sadly passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But she was an Avenger. She avenged us, and she helped to take down Thanos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she has a grave in the Midwest, is confirmed, so we can assume back in Ohio.
Yep.
Though that's not specifically said. And yeah, we have Yelena's visiting her grave and, mourning over her sister and whatever. And
she's visited.
Yeah, by Valentina, Contessa de Valentina, blah, 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 from who we most recently saw, or pretty much the only other time we've seen her, is in Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Where she enlists
U.S. agent.
Yeah, U.S. agent, whose name I can't remember right now. Actual name, like in the story, not the actor's name.
Yeah.
But yeah, enlists the U.S. agent, and we see her here basically setting Yelena to the task of avenging Natasha's killer, who she lays out to be Barton.
Yeah, I mean, and like based on anything we can know, like Barton probably like we don't know how the information of Natasha's death gets disseminated to people, but like Barton and Natasha went off together, and Barton came back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he only told, actually, like literally, he told Tony, Captain America, Hulk, and Ant-Man, whose name, yeah, I can't remember his name. Man, terrible. But yeah, those are the only people he actually told. Oh, yeah, and technically Rocket. I think Rocket's there as well, right?
Yeah,
Rocket's there, and Thor. So he tells
Nebula.
And no, because that was not Nebula. That's a dead Nebula.
Yeah.
So he only tells them, right? And then Tony's dead, and Captain America's gone, and Thor is also gone. So this information must. I don't know how this information gets out, and I assume maybe we'll find out how it is known. But I don't think Valentina knows exactly even what happened. I think that it's kind of just like we're just trying to, she's just trying to put like a target on Barton's back and say like, this is the guy that killed her. Go after her.
But this is a great teaser for the Hawkeye show.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe hopefully maybe we're gonna see something like a or like widows pursuing Barton kind of thing.
Well, I think we're definitely gonna see. Look, I was kind of like iffy on whether or not on how interested I was gonna be in this Hawkeye show. I was gonna watch it, but like, it's hard to have high expectations for the Hawkeye show. But if you tell me Florence Pugh is in this show, I'm watching it. I'm watching it every chance I get.
Yeah. I also think this sets up like we're setting up more of like the Dark Avengers.
Yeah.
Here, like literally, I mean, we now have our Captain America analog, and we have our Black Widow analog. So I think we're gonna keep kind of seeing more things added along to it. We also,
but it's interesting though that this keeps furthering the Dark Avengers with characters who aren't that bad. Like U.S. Agent, yeah, he does messed up stuff, but like he sort of has some redemption in his arc, and he never goes that dark. And Yelena, like, yeah, she was mind controlled into being an assassin, but she's not bad at all, like in Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or at least, to our degree. But we know that she's probably willing to do some, like, her moral standards may not be quite as high as Natasha's, at least. And we know that U.S. agents aren't as high as Captain America's. So again, to say Dark Avengers, I mean, I don't know how
they're
dark.
they're they're setting this potential Dark Avengers up with characters that at least Yelena's character we're gonna want to sympathize with. Like,
Yeah. So that was a cool reveal. Good send off for Black Widow. Like, a moment where she actually gets mourned, at least by somebody. And we're again we're just getting more set up for future cool stuff from the MCU.
but yeah, this is a really like I said, I thought this movie was great.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and it was only really my expectations going into it that made it any less. And I just think it hits so many, like narratively, and as a movie hits so many notes. I think its theme is like really well done. Like, again, me looking at the theme of this like repetition cycle, I think they just hit that theme in so many ways. It really works. I think that we get, like, I mean, the acting, the like Florence Pugh, like, I seriously think she's better than like Black Widow in this movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, I
She
really
stole the movie.
it's kind of funny, like, unfortunately,
But like, and I wonder how much of that's intentional, because they can't use Black Widow past this movie, but they can use Yelena. Yelena is coming back,
yeah,
and they set that up immediately for her to come back. And I think, like, I wonder how much Disney knew, like, how great Florence Pugh was, because like the casting and the filming of Black Widow is probably being done. I'm not certain if it was happening like right around the time that her star was on the rise, or maybe if some of it was happening before that.
mm-hmm.
But I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019, where she basically started off the year in Fighting with My Family, which wasn't like the biggest movie ever, but like it puts her face on your radar. Then she's in Midsummer, which like instantly I was like, who is this lady? She's incredible. And then ends the year in Little Women with like being nominated for an Oscar for performance in that. And like, so to like, I just think Disney is really good at picking up on fresh talent and new faces and stuff. And like, they chose really well with Florence Pugh. I think I have high expectations for her in the MCU and in like the world in general.
Yeah, if she's our new Black Widow, I'm very okay with that. I mean, and I just realized that we've had like, I saw something where it was said like we've had 10 years of Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow.
Yeah,
and like I mean, again, it's kind of just like Robert Downey Jr., Captain America, where there's like a little passing off of the torch as far as all these characters go. Where they're literally ending contracts, but also just choosing not to continue with their characters.
She's the wouldn't she be the Avenger that's been in, like, other than Tony and Bruce, who like had their own debut movies in 2008, she's the oldest established Avenger past them, because she showed up in Iron Man 2, which I think came before Captain America or
I don't know if
Thor.
I don't think it came before Thor. I think Thor came after Iron Man. But yes, I think you're correct. She is one of the oldest, definitely one of the oldest established Avengers.
Yes,
and yeah, what an epic conclusion to her journey and what's going to come forward. But yeah, this movie just hits so many good points. It's such a tight movie. And again, just to say, as in like back to like Winter Soldier comparison, this has like a kind of a, like, while using a little bit of its humor, it has like a darkness and grittiness, because again, the stakes are
we didn't even talk about the Smells Like Teen Spirit opening credit sequence, which was like really just like sets you in like a very particular mood.
Yeah, that opening sequence, like, it definitely gives you, I mean, because we're just getting this like really crazy like the flash of images, and like that, like
the hauntingness of the music, like over these messed up images, haunting images. It's just like
it gives you like a really good, without having to like get into like all the things that she experienced, it does give you this like feeling of like, wow, yeah, this is like not, the what's happening to her is like not a good thing. Like this these future these events that go on are just there. I mean, you just get the feeling like these are not good. This is suffering and loss of innocence, and yeah.
So I think like there was a fear with a lot of people, I think, of there being Marvel fatigue a couple years ago before we had this break. And now that we're getting 4 movies before the end of the year, I started to get the fear of what if this causes the Marvel fatigue, because like yeah, we didn't get anything for like a year, but like we gotten shows this whole beginning of the year. We have this movie, we get 3 more movies and like 2 more TV shows coming in the second half of the year. But watching this movie, I don't feel fatigued. I just want more.
Hmm.
Like September can't come fast enough. We're still watching Loki. We got an episode left of that. Um, I think the Hawkeye show is coming in fall.
Yeah, it comes in
I
August.
Yeah, is it really August?
Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
that's so soon. And then What If is coming up too, right,
I think What If is also in August.
dude?
Yeah. I'm actually, maybe I'm wrong about Hawkeye. Hawkeye might be a
I
little
think
later.
What If might
What
be
If is in August.
because it's the one that the trailer just dropped for.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I didn't have this idea. I never heard about this Marvel fatigue thing necessarily, but I think because of that break, what we're getting right now is this outpouring where it's just like they're hammering on like over and over to really cement and get anybody that lost any kind of interest in Marvel. We're getting them all reintroduced, giving them tons of things to watch. Like even if you're not like I'm watching every Marvel thing that comes out. If you come back, even if you had seen all the things, like I know some friends of mine who had not watched like any Avengers Marvel movies.
I know.
And during like the 2020, they went and watched all of them. We're like, wow, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
They had a catch up moment. And now they have all these things that they can keep watching if they're not already watching them.
Look, Disney Plus is like a perfect like venue of just like entrenching yourself in Marvel content.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. You know what? Because I came home from Black Widow and I turned on Disney Plus because I had to watch Loki because I hadn't watched it yet. And you know what they had like as like the banner image of like stuff to watch? It was just each of the banners was a different movie that had Black Widow in it.
Mm-hmm.
And like just like scrolling through the Black Widow collection, I was just like, man, I kind of want to rewatch all of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I think one, Disney Plus existing now is so perfect for them, and then like releasing these shows is like I would never watch Disney Plus. Okay, I'm not like a person that really goes back and like watches like Disney movies like as a leisure thing. I want to watch new movies or I just want to go do something else. And the fact that I keep getting brought back, like this would be a reason for me to, if I didn't have a family member that had a subscription, this would be a reason for me to subscribe to it. Like if I didn't have someone else that I could use, I would be subscribing myself just to watch these episodes.
Disney Plus isn't that expensive. It's like $5 a month.
I mean,
or like $5 or $6 a month.
Yeah, which is reasonable. But like, if they didn't have all this new content, all these new things, I wouldn't subscribe to it just to watch old Disney movies.
But it's not just Disney movies. It's Marvel.
Yeah, it is Marvel.
It's Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's National Geographic.
Yeah. So,
which I mean, I haven't used that part of it, but honestly, like nature documentaries, Disney has like really cute movies. Like that's like just like cool, like chill out stuff to watch those. But hey, like we're not sponsored by Disney, but like we could be.
Hey, Disney, yeah, you could sponsor us. They don't need any of our sponsor. But yeah, Black Widow, just honestly, really excellent. I mean, I say A-, and that's like maybe even being a little too mean about it. I think it is probably really just an A movie. Just of how it's made. Truly, like all the things about it, every beat that it hits, I think it does it perfectly. I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, this is the perfect balance of action and like narrative. Like the narrative does not suffer at all for this action, but there's plenty. Like there's never a moment where you're like, wow, it's just them talking for like, almost an hour. Like, which happens in other movies where you're like, I think even in like, I'm trying to remember, think of maybe I'm not thinking of like I can't think of a good Marvel movie or anything right now, but there are plenty of movies where like it'll be an action movie, but then it's just like them not actually doing anything action-y. It's like, well, I kind of came for action. I didn't even necessarily come for action in Black Widow, but I felt very satisfied by it. And but still, again, like I said before, that action was driving the narrative forward. It wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't just for no reason. I wasn't just watching them fight, for the sake of fighting. It was always like they go to this thing, they have to overcome some obstacles, and through their battle, they move forward with the story.
And I want to give some credit to this director who I just looked up their filmography, and honestly, I don't think I've seen anything that they've directed before, because they have like some work in television on like some show called The Secret Life of Us and a show called Bad Cop, Bad Cop. And she's directed some movies called Somersault, Lore, Berlin Syndrome, which I haven't seen any of these, But it's another, I assume that this is just another one of those situations of Disney picking up on a sort of indie-ish director that they see some potential in. And when they are given the means to create a big action movie, they do a great job. And so this Kate Shortland did a great job.
And letting some female directors get in there, a new female director, right?
Absolutely. And we are having another female director for Eternals. I've mentioned it before. Academy Award winning director.
yeah, which is gonna be like, that's some, I didn't even realize that the same director of Nomadland is directing Eternals, which makes me even have like super high expectations for it. I'm like, okay, the person that can direct at this caliber is going to direct another Marvel film. Like, wow, okay. But I mean, yeah, Black Widow, man, what a excellent, fantastic movie. I mean, there might be some more things that I could talk about on it, but I mean, I think I've gotten through some of my best favorite, things to say here.
We've definitely talked a fair amount, so I think we can wrap it up. But hey, like, if you got through this and you haven't watched it yet, what's wrong with you? Go watch it. Look, I think it's available with a premium purchase through Disney Plus if you're not comfortable going out to theaters.
Yeah, it is. It's available on which I gotta say, the advent of releasing films, for premium access and stuff at your home, it's an advent that should just keep being a thing forever. But I think there should always be theaters. I want to keep going to theaters forever. I want to keep watching movies in theaters. I will always be willing to pay for the tickets.
Yeah.
Even if I don't want to buy popcorn because it's too expensive and stuff like that, I still want to see movies, and that they are the best way to watch movies, I think.
Yeah. You know what? I did not mind paying the extra fee for Raya and the Last Dragon. I didn't pay it for Mulan because I heard bad stuff, but I didn't mind paying it for Raya. And then I was really disappointed when they put Luca just on Disney Plus, no extra fee, and didn't put it into theaters. It wasn't even an option to go see it in a movie theater. So that disappointed me. So I really hope that they preserve keeping like good movies going to theaters, because I want the opportunity to watch them in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, unless you have any other points you want to make about Black Widow, I think I've said all I need to say.
I think I'm good. Great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
Excited
worth the wait
for more MCU.
Worth the wait. This would be an A+ movie if it had come out when it was supposed to, though. For me,
that's fair.
Yeah,
but if it had come out when it was supposed to, would we have Florence Pugh in it?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure she still was in the movie. I don't think they sat there redirecting
the
movie.
Not like a year ago, but I mean, like, in terms of timeline, like if they had released it in 2017, timeline wise.
Oh, no, I didn't mean timeline wise. I just meant if it had been released when it was supposed to be released. I think I would have just, went into it being like, wow, what an amazing movie to come, to bring up Spider-Man. Like,
and while technically Phase 4 began with the TV shows, this was the first film of Phase 4.
Yeah,
and I'm ready.
Here's one question: Would the post-credit scene have been the same?
I don't think so, because it wouldn't have made sense.
Maybe it would have made more. Maybe it would have been it would have been like what they are usually supposed to be, which is a total teaser. Like, who the fuck is that character? Like, who's that talking to Florence Pugh's character? What does that even mean?
But so we would have gotten the name Valentina. And we would have been like, okay, this is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, so obviously she's important.
Yeah, because if they had just released Falcon and Winter Soldier later and had her show up then, it'd be like, oh, her from the thing. It would actually been a pretty decent teaser.
But I don't think it would have been the same. I think that teaser was changed.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so. because it was easy enough to have Florence Pugh and Julia Louis-Dreyfus just go film in front of a grave in Ohio.
I do want to say, I felt, I mean, I think it's supposed to look like, it is supposed to be like, 6 months later or some amount of time later.
Well, it's several years later.
Yeah, several years later. But it's supposed to be, some amount of time later. But I felt like Florence Pugh looked completely different, like even like older looking almost in that thing, which makes sense because it's like if they
probably refilmed it.
Yeah, they probably refilmed it like more than a year later after she was on different projects.
And also, we don't know if she got blipped or not, so she may be as much as like 6-7 years older.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so
that's it.
yeah, that's pretty much all for now, guys. So until next time, I'm Robert.
And I'm Ryan.
Have a good one.
Yep.